Hello and welcome to my presentation on discussion in A-level sociology. I'm going to be looking at a variety of strategies which will look to build confidence and analytical skills through structured dialogue. First of all, I'd like to explore why oracy is actually so important within sociology. Sociology actually requires for students to do a lot more than just recalling information. It requires for them to do things like evaluating contrasting perspectives, justifying arguments using evidence, and actually respond thoughtfully to materials that are presented to them. Now, this is vital obviously for their essays, but beyond that, we also need to consider preparing students for things like university seminars, which are going to require for them to join in and participate in discussions. And we know that actually oracy is really key because oracy allows students to actually help to clarify their understanding and their ideas before they express it in writing. So there are a number of barriers that teachers may face when trying to successfully implement oracy strategies within the classroom that we need to consider and try to find solutions to. So firstly, uneven participation is probably the most commonly faced barrier. It's certainly one that's talked about widely in research. So for example, what you often see is that actually some students will dominate the conversation while others will remain quiet and allow those students to take over the conversation. Now, we need to address particular strategies in order to avoid this happening within the classroom. Students also suffer from a lack of structured challenge, so they often find it difficult to actually respond to the materials that are presented to them in a way that is dynamic and fluid. Furthermore, students often struggle to build on the ideas presented by the students or to disagree meaningfully. This means that often what happens is you get a lack of critical engagement and quite superficial contributions being made to dialogue. So the first strategy I would like to share with you is co-constructing rules for talk. Now, this actually refers to creating a set of norms within the classroom that would enable students to actually participate meaningfully in discussion. Now, you can do this in a variety of ways. So you could present students with a list of rules that you have come up with, and they could add or take away rules that they feel are useful to them. Or you could actually ask them to come up with their own suggestions for rules that they would like. My recommendation would be to ensure that you've used visual cues and posters to actually remind students of what is expected of them. It's very useful to be able to direct students back to this during a discussion session. And this is all based on research by Mercer, who actually said that when we are co-constructing these rules for talk, it helps students to feel included in the dialogue. It helps them to actually take ownership over their own learning and increases their accountability. The second strategy that I'd like to share with you relates to the groupings in which you assign to students. So actually what we need to do is look at flexible groupings when it comes to discussion activities, and this can involve allowing students to actually self-select the groups that they go into. It ensures a mix of perspectives without setting students by ability, which is often the temptation. Because when we look at the research suggests that setting by ability is not necessarily the best choice for discussion. In fact, Falloon suggested that actually self-selecting allows students to improve their collaboration skills, and it ensures that actually they are able to participate in discussion more meaningfully because they feel more comfortable. It avoids reinforcing hierarchies as well within the classroom between those who are perhaps seen as being higher ability and therefore more able to participate in discussion, and those who are perhaps seen as having lower ability and less able to participate in discussion. The next strategy that I'd like to share with you is using sentence stems to scaffold dialogue. This is where you provide sentence starters to structure student talk, and this can actually be very effective in building their confidence as it gives them a very clear starting point. This could be as simple as "I agree with that point because," or "I respectfully disagree because," and it can be used in small group or whole class settings. It can also be adapted, so if you wish to provide further scaffolding, you can use things like key term banks as well to provide further support to students. This is something that is advocated for in research by Voice 21 and by Lemov, as they suggest that sentence stems actually help to support the linguistic and cognitive strands of oracy. In terms of the cognitive strand, this actually helps to reduce the cognitive load on students when they are deciding how to actually start their discussions, and it also supports the linguistic strand by providing them with academic language that they can use to succeed in their own discussions. In my own practice, this was one of the most popular strategies, and actually I found that for students, it helped the less confident ones to participate and formulate their ideas a lot more clearly. The final strategy that I'd like to share with you is the use of structured roles. Now, this can involve having a speaker, a challenger, and a builder. Students can self-select these roles, or they can have these roles assigned to them. It is a very good idea to model these roles to students in a live debate before allowing them to go off on their own and actually participate in their own debate. And it is a good idea to incorporate sentence stems as previously discussed. Now, research by the Cambridge Oracy Skills Framework and Lemov pointed out that these roles actually help to structure contributions and support challenge. It actually addresses the imbalance that you see in participation. For my own students, this was actually particularly useful because they knew that they could draw on support from the rest of their group, but they also knew that they had a distinctive role in which they were accountable for their contribution to the discussion. So just a few key takeaways from this session. So first of all, oracy really must be explicitly taught, and we cannot assume that our students do already have those skills. It's really important to give our students opportunities for structured discussion, as this can really actually help to improve their confidence. Also, confidence itself plays no small role in oracy and actually is vital for equitable participation. When it comes to these strategies, you need to decide what it is that is most effective for your students, and asking your students what they think is most effective is often a really good first step. Lastly, I've discussed a range of research throughout this presentation, and I have listed it here for you, so should you wish to do any further reading, please take a look at some of these suggested sources. Thank you so much for your time and listening to this presentation.